Welcome to Wild, Wacky, Wonderful Humans. This is the podcast that celebrates the quirks, the courage, and the brilliance of being human. I'm your host, Janine Tracy, transformational coach and curious explorer. Let's dive in and uncover the magic of being wonderfully human. Hello and welcome to Wild, Wacky, Wonderful Humans. Today I'm so blessed to be sitting in a sauna of all places with the incredible Amy Salisbury from, I can't even say you're from one thing because you have so many incredible things. You know, Amy was Kingston Woman of the Year, or currently is Kingston Woman of the Year, was given that title last year. And she founded the Mordi Sea Dippers. We'll tap into that very shortly, and we'll dip into that shortly. And SeaSoul Sauna, which is where we currently are. But I'll let Amy explain all of these incredible things. Amy, welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here and have a chat with you today.
Yeah, it's such a blessing to have you here. So many things. We need to start somewhere. Yeah. So let's start with Woman of the Year. Kingston Woman of the Year.
Kay Waddy.
Kay Waddy.
Nickname.
What's that? Is that what it's...
Kingston Woman of the Year.
Woman of the Year. Kay Waddy.
Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. Nice.
Yeah.
Always has to be an acronym named of everything, doesn't there? So it's an acronym.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? And how do you feel about this?
It was a complete honour to be nominated. It was the Mordi Sea Dipper group that did nominate me for Woman of the Year.
And rightfully so.
Yeah, so it was really special that I guess Kingston and the community acknowledged this group, because it is such a special group and, you know, it's really impacted so many lives. So I feel like the award really belongs to everyone, but yeah, I'm happy. Seeing as though I was the one to start it, it's nice to sort of represent sea dippers as a whole. And
can we tap into that then? So let's talk about that, and we can come back to the Woman of the Year, because obviously that was quite a pivotal, foundation for you.
Mm-hmm.
So what is Mordi Sea Dippers and how did it come about?
So Mordi Sea Dippers is a community group it started really just dipping in the water, and I started the group probably on the back of quite a low point, like everyone coming out of COVID and feeling very disconnected, and I sort of got a lot of relief from going into the cold water, and I was going in on my own I did like a 60-day challenge, and I just noticed a lot of positive benefits from doing that, but I was really missing community and really just wanting some other crazy people to go into the cold water with me. So there wasn't really much thought behind it, and never in my wildest dreams did I think, you know, what has been born today would come of me sitting on the beach. So yeah, I guess it just started as something where I just thought I could get a small group together to go into the ocean together, and now it's a huge community and it's really diverse and lots of young people.
So how big is it? Like, so when did you start? And then how
so we're coming up 3 years in March, and I think I started in March thinking that the water would be a little bit warmer and we'd head into winter and it wouldn't be such a shock to the system. So we're coming up 3 years. I think we have a group chat. I think. I don't know if you remember. There's at least 150, I would say, on that group chat now. So.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
150 within 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow. And so what happens? What do you do? I'm actually a member, full disclosure, of Mordi Sea Dippers, and I do it as well, and it's life-changing on so many levels.
Yeah.
As you know, for the community, for the, you know, building resilience by the actual action of doing the dipping. But I want you to share, like, what do we do each week?
Well, I think the one consistent thing we do, which was from the very start, was just to take take some time to just meditate or close our eyes and just listen. And I think so even when there was only a small group, we would do that and we would sit in a circle. And I think the act of even sitting in a circle is beautiful. And then taking some time to just take in everything, you know, nature and the surroundings and be grounded at the ocean. I think that was, from the outset. And then it's just sort of grown into a bigger circle. And then gratitude, we always go around the circle and we do some sort of gratitude, which again at the start was, I think for me, it was a practice that I was doing on my own. So it was something that I wanted to continue to do. So that's sort of something that's remained at Sea Dippers, probably part of the core thing that we do, which is to meditate, the gratitude circle, and then obviously go into the cold water. And I think going into the cold water together as a group, like you said, building resilience and feeling like you can do hard things, I think is, and then doing it in community is that, it's really special.
Yeah, it's an incredible opportunity. I know when I don't go for a number of weeks and then I go and then I come back to the community, that's the key.
Yeah.
So you come back and you just feel so loved and you feel like you belong.
Yeah.
And you've created that. How cool is that? Like someone like me, and there's 150 of me who, when they come, they have that feeling.
And it's beautiful. And I equally, I have it like everyone else, and it is that, it's that sense of belonging. It's just, it's a real judgment-free zone as well. Everyone is just accepted to come as they are, and you know that is what a true community is really just lifting each other up. And it's like a big love bomb every week. That's how I say it. You come and it's just a really loving, accepting space, and a diverse space as well, because you know everyone's so different but just so loving and accepting.
And over a period of 3 years, you're going to see people going through things, right? Because we're human. In 3 years, if somebody hasn't gone through something, that would be pretty unusual, you know, especially right at the moment when the world's a little bit tumultuous and, you know, there's a lot of outside influence and forces happening out of our control. So I know for me, you know, when I go to Sea Dippers and we'll often see people who are like dipping in emotion and stability, and they come for that support as well. And then you'll see people, the same people, when they're on the high. And it's really incredible to just watch this human journey.
And I think that's what's so beautiful and unique too, is being able to show up when you are at your low point, because, you know, quite often, you know, we will maybe retreat from sharing or showing up to certain places when we're not our best. And I feel like Dippers really gives people that space to come no matter what. And we will celebrate when they are high or going through, you know, great times. But when we're low, everyone's there also to support and pick them up and just really listen and be an ear. And I think that's a really beautiful thing too.
Yeah. And I want to thank you for that, because you're the one who's created that space for so many people to experience that. It's such an honour to be in. Like, I'm so glad I found Mordi Sea Dippers. And I know from sitting in that circle how many people have said, this has changed my life.
It's changed my life as well. And I think, and it is just that support and friendships that have been made that'll be lifelong now, and that sense of belonging. I think it's, you know, I really think community is the new therapy. I think you know, I think that's where it's at.
I love that phrase. Community is the new therapy. Do you know Johan Hari? He talks a lot about community being the lack of community being the problem for addiction, especially, right? So we have addictions, but what we're really missing is community. And so we turn to something else that we think soothes us, but really what we need is connection. Connecting with other people who don't necessarily think like us or not even like us, right? So if you look at Sea Dippers, like you said, there's so much diversity. There's different ages, there's different, you know, ways of thinking. It doesn't matter. The community still, everybody still belongs in that community. You know, from an outsider looking in, you might look at the people there and go, oh, they're not my people. But there's so many different types of people. How could you say that, right? So yeah, I think
Yeah.
community is a new therapy. It's a
Yeah.
really true.
And it's less about self. I think we have so much focus on healing oneself, which I think is important to address all those, but something as simple as just, yeah, having support and being accepted and what that can do to the human spirit, I think is just, yeah, it's special.
Yeah, we all just want to be accepted,
Yeah,
don't we?
yeah.
We want to be loved.
Yeah, yeah.
We want to be seen.
Yeah,
We want to be
you want to
heard.
be seen, 100, yeah. And you definitely get that at Dippers.
Oh, yeah. That's all we want as humans, isn't it? It's just to allow our hearts to be expressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And so for you, Amy, you've had, a lifetime filled of looking for support, and you've had a condition, I guess you call it, since a young age, where you have had to seek support, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about that now?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
And it's good to bring awareness to it as well, and understand that people are not alone. Like, there might be some listeners who might need to hear what you've got to say about it.
Yeah, well, the condition that I've been living with is called PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is a menstrual disorder that, in fact, 1 in 20 women suffer from.
That's a lot.
A high number that don't get diagnosed, actually. So, yeah, so I've sort of had that since I started menstruating, which was 14. And, yeah, it's sort of taken me a lifetime of just understanding it and being able to live with it as the best I can in a healthy way. So, yeah, I think it's been a really challenging condition to live with. But
for those who don't know what it is, what happens? Like, what is it? So if it's based on your menstruation, is something happens every month?
Yeah, so it's once a month with your menstrual cycle. So a woman will have their follicle stage, which is the start, and then their luteal stage, which is towards when they're going to get their period. So for me, in the luteal stage, it's like the only way to explain it is like a switch. So I'm naturally a very happy and bubbly and driven and productive person. But during that luteal phase, and it can be anywhere from 2 weeks to 5 days. And again, that just depends on sort of my lifestyle and how I've been living and all the things I do to how severe the symptoms can be. But yeah, it can look like depression. It can look like your brain just getting hijacked. It's quite difficult to just get things done that you normally could get done quite quickly. You feel quite anxious. It's you're just very tired, very fatigued. So for someone like me who is a very active and it's a difficult thing to have to go through, and it's every single month. And I think that's the thing, and it's feeling, it's like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of feeling where you feel, and then suddenly it's you're not any of the things that you used the previous month. So,
and it must feel relentless. If it's every single month, and there must be almost a fear about it coming back, right?
Yeah,
you know when it's coming generally.
Yeah, I do, and I do track it very well, and I've sort of managed my life around it now. But I think when I was younger, it would create then a depression ongoing because I felt so helpless. Like there was no answers, and the only thing to treat it would be some sort of antidepressant, and then that wasn't the answer because I wasn't depressed, but I guess during that period I was. But so I never really found anything medically that could help. So but I think then I did a lot of work on myself, and did a lot of therapy, deep therapy, and address my lifestyle and things like that. And so I would say now, and obviously getting older as well, I've lived with it for so long now that I'm able to just have a bit of acceptance around it. And I think that's been key for me, is just accepting and giving myself grace through those periods, and talking about it. I think it's really only been since Dippers that I openly discuss it, and that, I think that in itself, because then all the people who are closest to me, they fully understand and they can support me during that time. And,
absolutely. And so if one of our listeners is suffering from it, or their child, or their partner, or friend, what do you think is the best thing for let's say there's two
Yeah.
parties here. Let's say for a support person,
Yeah.
what's the best thing that a support person could do for this person? And then we'll come back to the person themselves.
Probably just having an understanding of their cycle and tracking it, so they know that, because generally too their behaviours will change during that period.
So it might be quite obvious.
Yes, and generally they'll know. If you're close to this person, you will know. My daughter also actually suffers from this. So
the two of you in one house at one time, how does that go?
Yeah. So but I guess we both also, have deep empathy for each other, and we understand, so we just try. The worst is when we line up at the same time. So we try to do it, somehow, but the whole woman thing together,
cycle together. For sure. That's a common thing, right?
But yeah, I think your first line would be tracking and having, there's an app that you can get, and especially if you're unsure whether you have it, the first thing would be to track at least 3 months and track your symptoms during that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there anything in particular, like for you in particular, that someone should never say to you when you're in this part of the cycle, or do, or like, is there a certain thing they're just like, don't touch me, or don't look me in the eye? Is there anything for you that's kind of like triggering?
Not really.
Or has been?
Probably if they were just mocking that it's my behaviours, because when you're in it, like if it was like, oh, it's because of your period, which is, I guess people do, so that would probably be the
like dumbifying it, or like it's making it less important.
Definitely.
Don't do that.
So there are any jokes around it? I'm like,
don't joke about it. Unless you joke about it yourself, right? If you're giving permission, if you're joking about it yourself, then you're giving people permission to come and be light about it. But don't joke about it unless you have permission.
But I think like dippers has definitely helped, a huge part of how I experience my symptoms now. So like I did used to feel emotionally, like you said, a lot of more emotional issues and feel a bit more depressed, whereas now I think through having the support and the love of so many people, I think now it's more just me dealing with the fatigue that I get and just not being able to function at my best. I think.
How do you do that? How do you deal with the fatigue? Because even if somebody hasn't got this, they have other ailments or other things going on in their lives. There's a lot of people in our communities who are suffering from fatigue at the moment. So what do you do to combat fatigue?
I think for me, just it's just knowing the time, and in a way I'm lucky, I guess, and I know exactly when it is every single month. So for example, last month I did have a very hectic couple of days right the few days before I was due, and so that was a good learning, because I know moving forward that during those couple of days I have to either staff things or work it out so that my workload is not as intense, at least for 2 to 3 days.
So reducing your workload.
Yes. Yeah.
Is there anything that you do with your body? Or
so like having a massage or just cold water actually, and sauna can definitely help, even though it's the last thing you feel like doing when you are like that, but it definitely helps. And I mean, part of the reason I got into my love of sauna and cold water was to help with the symptoms. So
let's talk about that. So you have created an incredible business. Not only has Amy built, and I'll let her talk more about this, a sauna. It's not just a sauna. It's an experience. I was here the other day and I noticed that even the jug that Amy has the water in has the SeaSoul sauna symbol on the jug. It's just a tiny little detail, but it's your attention to detail that make this feel like an experience. And I've said this to you before. People come because they see that it looks cool or whatever it might be, but they return because it's an experience.
And I was very intentional about that with this business. So I really have a deep passion for sauna. I'd call myself a sauna enthusiast, and I have been for many, many years. So I used to be a member at Don Tatnall, a little community leisure centre, and for nearly 20 years. So that was where my love of sauna
Wow.
came from.
Did somebody suggest it to you, or like how did you discover this love for
I
saunas?
think I would just gone to the gym or a gym class, and they had a sauna there, so I went in to try it. And then I just loved it. And it was like I always found even that environment very diverse. There would be Russians and Chinese women, and they all had, like, the Chinese women would scrub before they go in. That's like a ritual they sort of do before they sauna. And then the Russian men would come and they'd have their hats on and they'd use like lots of water. And so, I always found, even on that smaller scale, just at a local leisure centre, I always found it really fascinating, the different rituals that some of these cultures had around sauna.
Yeah. And what ritual are you kind of attracted to?
Well, probably all of it. I'm just so deeply fascinated by the history of sauna, and and what it just can do for well-being, and again, community, bringing in connection. And there's a Finnish proverb which is no more created equal than in a sauna.
Oh, nice.
And I just love that. It's true. We're stripped down. It's a very intimate space being in a sauna, and I feel like the kind of conversations you have, and it's a special thing.
Is it true that business meetings take place in saunas? Norway and Sweden and those kind of Scandinavian countries, but then also the Baltic states, right? That's quite common.
Yeah, and I've been told global leaders as well have tried to have mediations and things in
a
sauna.
Naked or
I guess it depends what country they're in. If they're in Germany, I would say they would be.
Really? That's common in Germany.
Yeah.
Who's the hardcore? Are they the Germans or the hardcore?
I think they probably all would think. Yeah, I mean, Finland has, nearly more saunas than people. They've got a sauna nearly in every household in Finland. They've got a deep passion for sauna. But I think the whole of Scandinavia, it's just a way of life over there. Sauna is very much part of their summer holidays and part of just their weekly catch-ups, even, friends coming together. It's a very common thing to go to sauna and have a few beers after.
And you've just recently been over there. I've got to ask this question first.
Yeah.
Have you ever met someone in that area who doesn't like a sauna? It's like meeting an Italian who doesn't like pasta,
Yeah.
I spoke to someone recently. She's like, I'm Italian. I don't like pasta.
Oh, wow.
How is that even possible? So have you met anyone who doesn't like saunaing?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I have not met yet, but I've still got a lot to travel around that area.
So tell us about your travels there.
Well, I was visiting my daughter. She was studying in Copenhagen, and so I just did a bit of a sauna tour. So
terrible reason to go, isn't it? I just got to go visit my daughter and see a few saunas, a few lakes.
I had obviously this is, I'd always have a love of sauna, but I'd never really experienced it in the way that they do there. So to be fully immersed in it, and this sauna gus experience, which is like a sauna infusion with essential oils, and it's actually not it's not that old, this ritual, but it's such a beautiful immersive experience. So that was amazing to go. And I think I sauna nearly every day. I did do sauna in Sweden and then straight into the Baltic Sea, and that was a clothing optional sauna. So that was incredible going. And that was looking right over the Baltic, and then sauna, and they separate the men and women. So the women are on one side, men are on the other. So they have two saunas. And then you go out into the sea.
So when you go into the sea, is it separated or is it?
Yes. So one side the men, and then the other side the women.
Oh, how interesting! Yeah. Wow. Was that your favourite experience over there?
I think for sauna, it was cold. The water.
How cold was it?
Yeah, it was in the minuses, but it was
wow. Because here in Melbourne, how cold does the water get?
I think the bay only gets 9 degrees.
9 in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
And in summer, how much is our temperature here?
You go to like 21 or
21. So that's big. Nowhere near minus. So did you notice a difference then?
Oh, absolutely.
Or do you feel like you're acclimatized? I don't know for you, but I remember for me when I first cold dipped, there was this feeling of it takes your breath away. And you are struggling to breathe.
Yeah.
Did you have that over there?
Oh, definitely. Right. In the water. Yeah.
Okay. How good was that?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it was, yeah, definitely bucket list. Definitely a bucket list.
Wow.
Yeah, memory. So,
Oh, yeah. When are you going back?
in June, actually, there's a World Sauna Forum
Oh, you
in
got to go to
Finland.
that.
Yeah,
In Finland.
so
Wow.
yeah, and we're sort of I've just become part of it's a Australian, well, it's just, we're just doing it here, but it's the Australian Sauna Association.
Oh, yeah.
So that's been created at the moment here in Australia. So
Wow.
yeah, so that's really exciting.
How
So
many members are there of that at the moment? Is it a common thing in Australia?
no, so it's a new thing that is being
Right.
created. Obviously,
Okay.
overseas and in Europe and Scandinavia,
Yeah.
there's lots of associations. So
Right.
I think as it's become quite popular there, and we're seeing it begin here,
Yeah.
so it's nice. It's nice to be a part of that, and on the forefront of, I think, it becoming more popular here in Australia.
Wow. Have you met many people who have done the same as you?
I have
Oh,
actually,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
So there's a few around Australia. There's a lot who are trying to seek through councils and things like that at the moment permission. So hopefully by getting this and through council and through Port Phillip Bay, how we did it, hopefully that's going to pave the way for others who, because I'd really love to see sauna culture grow, and we utilise all over Australia our beautiful beaches, and have this sort of thing more openly for community.
Yeah. Have you been to any others in Australia at all?
I did do a lot of research, so yeah, I've been to pretty much everyone in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's been quite a few open now since I started, but yeah, there's there's a beautiful one in Tasmania, the floating sauna, which was probably one of the first ones to do this concept. Beautiful architecture building.
It's floating,
It
so it's
is
on the
floating,
water?
yeah, and
Oh,
it's in a
wow.
place called Lake Derby. So
Ooh.
highly recommend that if you're ever in
Sounds
Tasmania. It's
amazing.
absolutely beautiful, and it's got
Wow.
mountains in the background. And yeah,
Wow.
it's a really special place.
And that was in a magazine recently,
Yes.
as was SeaSoul Sauna.
Yeah, that was the
Can
Australian
you tell us?
Travel magazine. So
You
yeah,
made
they
it to the
reached out.
Australian Travel
Yeah,
magazine.
so top 10 in Australia. So
That's
that
incredible.
is, yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah.
So how did that come about?
I think it was sort of they wanted to write an article on authentic sauna bathing, and I think that's sort of what I definitely am trying to focus on with this experience is, bringing the authentic way, which is the Scandinavian way of experiencing sauna. So so that was very exciting.
And what is that?
So I think a lot of authentic sauna bathing, well, first of all, it'll be a traditional heater. So if anyone's experienced infrared or traditional, traditional is generally either wood-fired or an electric heater, and it generally has rocks, and you use a lot of steam. But and then it's a period of cold, so some sort of cold, either a lake, or I think in some parts in Finland they even go into the snow, and so, and then community, I think, coming together, it's less about health and probably more about the experience in community. Obviously, definitely there are health benefits, but if you go to Finland or any of these countries, there's not a big discussion around the health benefits. It's more what they get out of it from catching up with friends and just generally feeling good and feeling euphoric when they leave. I think it's that, like with the cold dipping, it's that euphoric feeling.
Yeah.
Even though we all know there are health benefits, but I think it's that buzz that you get after having an experience like this.
Oh, beautiful. And what have you set up as the experience for people?
Well, obviously by the ocean, which was, I worked very hard to find a space, a beautiful space as well. And I think this is a really quiet little spot here. So I think having just the nature element of the ocean, and so I think and the experience of, it's an hour and a half hour experience. So I did get some feedback early on where people wanted to have a drop in or have the sauna only at 30 minutes, but I think from all my years of doing sauna, even at the leisure centre, I was always there at least an hour and a half or 2 hours, because there was always this process, which is authentic bathing, of sauna and then resting, sauna, resting, and doing that as a process. So
yeah. And I guess if people haven't been exposed to that, so for me, as an example, I didn't know that is really the process, right? I thought that was something that's unique. Like I've seen also at a leisure centre in Auckland in New Zealand, where there would be people go and have a sauna and then have a shower and then sit down.
Yes.
And then go into the steam room and then have a shower and sit down.
Yeah.
But I didn't really understand it.
Yeah.
And so I always just saw a sauna or a steam room as just going in and sitting in and then going and have a swim.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think for a lot of people, it would have been unusual potentially if you haven't been exposed to the culture or the understanding of what it does for you.
Yeah.
Then you're
and I
likely
think
to want
what
to
it does after that third time of going into it, it's like your body goes, your whole, the relaxation side, and you go into this new level of like just relaxation, I think, that is, a little bit more than after the first round. So I think it takes getting to that hour or that hour and a half to you just go, you just feel it, right? You would have felt it when you did it.
It's like you drop into the the parasympathetic nervous system ticks on, and you just go into this deep relaxation, don't you?
Yeah.
Especially, I find, especially with the cold or when you're surrendering.
Yes.
So you've recently introduced the sauna gus.
Yes.
And that's got a lot of surrender attached to it, hasn't it?
It does, yeah.
And so when you bring your surrender to the game, when you bring your surrender to, or you give yourself permission to surrender, it's incredible what your body does. It literally just relaxes so deeply when you're in that moment.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a sense of achievement.
Yeah.
Because you overcome the pain.
Yes.
Can you tell us about sauna, Gus? Because I'm kind of painting it with pain. It is slightly
I do
painful,
a little bit too, and I think I scare people off. But it's a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
But I think because it is so immersive, it's essential oils that we use and music, and we use a lot of water onto the rocks that creates this beautiful steam, and then we distribute the air through fanning.
Very, very hot air.
Very, very, and we're in a very small, intimate space.
Yeah.
So it is very uncomfortable and intense because it's in extreme heat, and especially because you're distributing the air. But I think because of the essential oils, it's very immersive. It's all the senses. So it's a very meditative experience because you sort of can't help but be present because there's so much going on. There's the music, there's the heat, there's, so it's like,
Which is why you have to surrender though, right?
100%.
If there's all of that going on, you can get really uptight and just be kind of stunned almost.
Yes.
And when you surrender, it's incredible how...
Yeah. And the same with the ice baths, right? Or the cold water, that initial... And I always say that to people, that initial 30 seconds, you tense up and you're like, you can't breathe. And it's you just have to remember to breathe and like within, and always within about 30 seconds. And the same with the intense heat. It's just that initial feeling it's like a shock. And then, you the minute you just relax and allow, then, it's beautiful after that point. Yeah. And you see it in the ice bath, people then just go...
Because I guess the battle stops, right? So you've got this battle with your mind whenever you do anything like this that's really uncomfortable. Your mind starts to go, no, you don't want to do this. Yes, I do. No, you don't. Yes, I do. No, you don't. You have this constant battle. And then when you've had that initial shock, then the battle stops.
Yes, yeah.
And then you can just relax into the truth of, oh, wow, my body has actually been repaired. Or what are some of the things that happen in your body when you're doing sauna and the cold plunging?
I think exactly that you just explained happens. That's why we do 3 rounds, because the first round is very much a bit of a battle, because especially if you're not used to it, it's very high heat. We have it at 90 degrees, so your body and mind are sort of very uncomfortable with that heat and staying in for the 15 minutes that we recommend. And then the second round that they come in and do it, it's like the body then understands. It's like, okay, now I know. And then by the third round, people are like, okay, I've got this, and the body really does. Yeah. So, but I mean, there's a lot of health benefits, obviously, to sauna, like saunaing, like your sleep is massively improved. Cardiovascular helps. I think there's some studies, if you saunaing 4 times a week, it can add 9 years to your life.
Can we book a few more sessions?
So I think, and I mean, I'm sure now too, there'll be a lot more studies come out on sauna, but I think, just like if you ask anyone after they leave an hour and a half of going from sauna to ocean, like at the end of it, it's just undeniable that euphoric like just clear feeling that you have like when you finish a session like this.
Yeah. And I know the last time I was in here and I did a sauna gus, and one of the girls that I was sitting next to said, I can see how this becomes addictive.
Yeah.
And it's so true, because it's this, you know, we love to feel loved. We love to feel present. We love to feel our authenticity. When we feel an authenticity, we feel present, we feel calm, and we get rid of all the competing thoughts in our head. That's what's addictive.
Yeah.
You know, the feeling that we get from the doing of these things, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, that's, we just, how much chatter do we have in our heads often?
That's why the sauna gus is great, because it just sort of forces you to go inward and just allow. And I think,
and you know, the other alternative is to walk out, right? So if the battle's too much, then you're going to walk away from the battle, right? And so the fulfillment or the sense of deep self-love can come from just sitting with it and just being present with it, isn't it? Yeah. And not fighting that battle. Yeah, it's a beautiful gift.
Yeah, it is.
So, Amy, I kind of sent you a few questions that we could prepare you on, so that you could think about your life and what you do in your life and how other people might be influenced by, you know, because this whole podcast is about, we're just normal people doing things, right? And how do we live our lives that allows us to do the things we do when we're just normal humans, and we choose to do things that elevate ourselves, which is often seen as success or a fulfilled life. You're definitely living a beautifully, successfully fulfilled life, doing the things that you love doing. How do you find time to play, to have fun?
Yeah.
What do you do for fun?
Well, I mean, Dippers is that for me. So I'm working on being a little bit more of an active participant.
Oh yeah.
In
How
Dippers.
do you do that?
So yeah, I mean, Dippers, honestly, like the fun I've had in the last few years through that group, I think, on a Saturday morning, you've seen it.
Yeah.
And we bring like we sometimes have a rave at like, you know, 7 in the morning and there's no fucks given. And that's just so freeing too, to be there at 7 a.m. in the morning and, you know, having a dance. And so I always know when I'm really needing it, and I'll make sure other Amy brings the stereo and we like put some music on and have a dance. So that for me is a big release, even just, utilising Dippers and having some fun through there. I think I'm in a phase, obviously I've started this business, so I'm very much in a work phase right now. So having play, I think, is something, but I'm very aware of where I'm at, and so I need to probably bring in play, and I'll know when that point is. And I think, like, you know, life has seasons for things as well, and I feel very fulfilled right now working on my passion of the business and, you know, creating a life for myself through helping others and through, you know, having a business like that can impact a lot of people is what really fulfills me.
Yeah. And you said something, actually, I'm going to read this out because you've just reminded me of something that you said around your purpose for doing all of this. And, you know, you said that you're dedicated to promoting holistic wellness and boosting well-being of the community. So you're not just talking about the individual, you're talking about, this is huge. So the things that you're doing is, I just can't even imagine in 5 years' time the flow-on effect that you doing this will have on the community. Not just this community, but other communities around the world. You're helping found this association, the Sauna Association in Australia. Even that alone is going to be giving so many people permission or support to be able to create this themselves, right? And they in turn will create a huge change in their communities. And I'm a great believer of you influence one person's life, they're
Yeah.
influencing all the people in their lives as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're doing that. And then you also said that you are doing this and that people can unplug, unwind, transform their mental and physical health.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, spaces like this definitely create that for people. I mean, because we're so plugged in, right?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's rare to find places where we can fully unplug.
Yeah.
And in community, I think
Yeah.
is like I said, community's the new therapy, and I think and also I think I've always just been like, just do the small pocket of the area, you know, because you can get so weighed down by the state of the world and everything going on. But I truly, it might be cliche, but I do truly believe in just doing good that you can in the pocket that you have and in what you can control, and you know, that butterfly effect of, you know, how that impacts others and so forth.
Have you already seen that happen?
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely.
Can you think about someone?
Yeah, I mean, through Sea Dippers, just all I think the friendships that have been made, and then the cut-off groups that have all happened. I mean, that in itself shows the impact of that community, because now suddenly we're seeing all these other groups come out of that. Yeah. And then I think people just that have had mental health struggles, or, you know, alcoholism, things like that, that have overcome those challenges.
That's incredible.
Since being in community, I think is we've definitely seen that within the group, and just even the sauna, like seeing people leave the sauna, it's like in real time. You see, like I'll see them come at the start, and quite often if I get a group and they don't, for example, they don't know each other, it's a communal group, they're all coming as strangers, and you see them at the start. Quite awkward, I would say, and because it is an intimate space and you're all facing each other, and you know, and people are very uncomfortable because they're not comfortable, you know, they don't know anyone, and so, and then watching it unfold over the hour and a half, and by the end of it, like I had a group last week that came through, and then they didn't know each other, and then at the end was a Sunday night, and 8:00 on a Sunday night, they all agreed to come once a month at the same time.
Wow.
And they all exchanged numbers, and they all agreed, book in 8:00 once a month. Oh. And that, for me, that was it. Like it was just in real time. And
that's incredible.
Yeah. And that's when you go, okay, this is what this is. It's,
that is such a gift.
Yeah.
You are truly providing a platform for people to not only just be doing something with other people, but to deeply connect. Yeah. And this is what's missing from our communities, right? Yeah. And you're providing, this platform, but then other platforms are springing off
and so I think, and then it's
really
just
amazing.
People taking that first step of feeling uncomfortable, but knowing when you come to these spaces, you know, you're accepted, and sometimes it just takes that first initial step.
That's super cool. You should feel so proud about that, because you're gifting this to these people, but not only are they feeling that in that group, so that group of people that are going to meet once a month, the flow-on effect with each one of those people, is there 6 people? Yeah. Each one of those 6 people, they go home to their families. They've got a smile on their face. Yeah. They're feeling lighter. Yeah. They're feeling more connected and more engaged. Yeah. Their conversations will improve. Yeah. Then the people that they're conversing with, they'll go back into their workplaces and to schools, and it's just it's so cool.
Yeah, it is. So, wow. And we've seen that through Sea Dippers as well, you know, which is beautiful. And now, I feel so privileged to have another space like this, which is my business, that I can work in and have that same sort of impact. And
it's incredible. Yeah. So what's on the cards for the next 12 months? Next year or so?
Lots.
Anything you can talk about?
Well, just expanding. I think I'm working on another location on the peninsula for a similar sauna, which will be ocean as well. So
how far off are we on that one?
Hopefully by winter, but wow, no guarantees either. But
watch the space.
Yeah,
and not miss out on this. That's incredible.
And then looking at a bit more of an urban space too, which will be more of the sauna gus, but in a bigger space, because the sauna gus shows that we do within the barrel, it's beautiful, but it's a little bit limited on how far you can take the technique and the full depth of it all. So I'm looking at like a bigger sauna that'll hold 20 to 25 people.
Oh,
and
wow.
we can have proper trained sauna masters, and
there'll be parties going on in that sauna.
There definitely will be parties, and we'll have music and lights, and it'll be very high vibe. So yeah, I am working on that as well. So hopefully, within a year we'll have a few different.
Wow, that's so exciting. There's so much. Yeah. And obviously I can see why you're saying that, you're spending a lot of time at the moment on your passion.
Yes.
Which your passion is play.
Yeah, it is. It definitely, and I guess, feels... definitely. Yeah. And I love people. So it's, it's a perfect, business for me.
Yeah, exactly. You've landed where you belong.
Yes.
You found your purpose.
Absolutely.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Now, I love to ask my guests 3 really cool questions.
Yep.
And it's in vein of the podcast itself. So, Amy, what is one of the wildest things you've done?
I would probably say recently, when I was in Iceland, hiking a glacier and then swimming nude in a hot springs in the middle of this beautiful mountain. Wow. That's probably the wildest, I would say. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. That sounds like I just have a picture, not of you being nude, but of the terrain.
And being with my daughter.
How incredible being in that kind of environment.
Yeah, it was unreal. Absolutely unreal.
It must almost feel like it's not real.
Yeah. Oh, and Iceland is just otherworldly. So it is every turn you're in, it's like wow. So
wow, that's cool. Nice.
Yeah.
What about one of the wackiest things you've done?
Maybe when I was 9, I shaved my head.
You shaved your head at 9?
19.
Oh, 19. Yeah. Why?
It was just on a whim, actually. My friend needed a model. She was doing a hairdressing event, and she needed a model, and so I just shaved my head the night before. I think the model had pulled out or something had happened, and
Do you remember the process of making the decision? Because I can imagine your friend calls you, hey, do you want to be my model tomorrow?
Yeah.
And shave your head tonight? Come on.
Yeah.
And do you remember?
Was
there a resistance to
it? Yeah, definitely. And but then I think at that, I was just, very free-spirited at that point. Yeah. So,
And how did it feel having a shaved head?
Yeah, it was freeing.
Yeah.
But, and then I think she dyed it. And so that was probably the wackiest thing I've ever done on a whim.
Cool. When your hair started growing back, was it you just couldn't stop touching your hair? Did you get that fuzz? Touch my hair.
That was the only other time in my life I wore a lot of hats.
Oh, yeah.
So, exactly. Back at that time.
Yeah. And Amy, what makes humans wonderful?
Oh, so much. I think our capacity to love and be compassionate and have empathy. I think it's just a beautiful thing. And then resilience as well, like seeing people hit rock bottom and come back up again. And I think it's
And so when you say the empathy and the ability to love, why is that wonderful?
Because there's so many layers to love, right? And I think just being human and being able to experience all those different layers is just so beautiful and so special.
Yeah. And we are lucky that creatures, the human ability to really consider other people and bring that empathy and share that love is such a true gift that we often undervalue, right?
Yeah.
We often don't really, it's kind of like it's part and parcel.
Yeah.
I love my kid, I love my mum, I love my dad, but we really forget how deep that is and how important that is, not just for us, but for them as well, right?
Yeah.
So to identify the empathy and the deep love that people have is really important. Yeah. Thank you. Do you have any words of wisdom for our listeners? Parting thoughts from Amy
Oh,
Salisbury.
wow, this is pressure.
No pressure at all. What would you tell your younger self?
I've had this question actually before. I've had it at dippers, and I think just that you're enough. I think we spend so much of our lives trying to be something else maybe, or living up to an idea through family or through society of success. And I think my younger self would just want to hear you're enough exactly as you are. And I wish I had have known that a lot younger, because I would have not had to have so much suffering, I guess. But yeah, I think as human beings, we're just feeling enough exactly as we are.
That's beautiful. Yeah, imagine if more of us knew that.
Yeah.
As teenagers. If we knew that at 13, 14, 15, or even younger these days, right? There's a lot of trauma a lot younger these days. If we know that, that who we are becoming, because we're constantly becoming, it's always enough. And we can't,
should be taught in schools.
It so should be. Yeah. That would do a lot for humanity. You're doing a lot for humanity. Thank you, Amy.
So are you.
Thank you so much for sharing your light. It really is an important role. You know, it's a really important purpose. And thank you for stepping up and listening and stepping into that purpose, because you are changing lives, and you don't even know yet the impact that you'll make, because it's just so deep. So thank you for being you, and thank you for sharing your light. It's been such an honour to have you on my podcast, and keep being you, keep sharing your life.
Thank you so much.
And you are so
Thanks
much
for having me.
Enough. You are so much more than enough. So thank you. Thank you. Yay. Thanks for tuning in to Wild, Wacky, Wonderful Humans. If you had fun, share it with someone just as wild and wonderful as you. Stay wild, stay wonderful, stay wacky, and I'll catch you next time.